The idea of how heavily you need to brand something is less relevant when you're on mobile, because obviously people are choosing to be in a certain space and seeing your information, so you can make the information much more particular about the proposition you've got. Mobile's a really big part of our future, not just us as an organisation, but society in general. For us, actually, mobile is part of our range of channel delivery. So we've got, the physical branches, the kind of traditional way people do business. Then the desktop came along with the telephone. But actually now, mobile, a third of our customers, about 30% of our customers, it's their channel of choice, first channel of choice. But having said that, a lot of those customers also want to use other channels. So it's forming very much part of the future, but we have to do it in a way that's very consistent with what we do in our other channels as well. Well, I think new technologies, it develops all the time, doesn't it? So obviously bots are a big part of the future. They lend themselves very well to lots of applications. Banking, it would be an obvious example where people could get some very basic standardized information using bots. In fact, we've already done some work developing with some of the social media platforms, chat bots and stuff like that. So that's going to form very much part of the future, as well as general app development. If you look at people's social media usage, and I think 90% of people use Facebook on the app. So I think it's about understanding how apps are going to develop, and then the technology and the applications within apps, and how we can adapt those for our use in banking. We look at mobile in the same way we look at all of our channels. So basically we develop very specific measures dependent on the channel, dependent on the customer, depending on the product or the proposition. And so it might be about an engagement rate, it might be about where that customer goes following the initial interaction. I think having one single metric to measure the successful delivery of a mobile campaign is dangerous. And in fact, we're using quite a few different technologies to help us understand that. Attribution modelling, working with suppliers like Moat and people like that to develop our own understanding of what works and what doesn't. I'm not sure a mobile campaign delivers me very specific benefits versus another campaign. I'm more interested in what it allows me to do in terms of targeting different types of customers. So actually, mobile's a consumption platform like other platforms, and for some people it's their main consumption platform, and particularly younger people. And so if I'm going to stay relevant to those people, I need to make sure the messages I've got and the propositions I've got that are right for that audience get delivered in a way that they're going to consume them. That's where mobile is really important for us. So I wouldn't say it was unique, I'd say it was essential actually to get to them. That's the issue, because otherwise you're just going to miss out chunks of the population. The services we've got now look fundamentally different to even how they looked 10 years ago. So for a bank, obviously people expect seamless interaction between different platforms in real time. So that's the main focus of what we try and deliver. And as new platforms have come along, and as mobile, for example, has developed, that has to be part of that suite. So in the same way that when telephony came along and we had to develop all our services to work on the telephone, so we've had to do so with mobile. And it's as simple as that. Everything that we do has to work on every platform. Well, in branch and online for us, whether that be online through a desktop or a tablet or a mobile, and the branch, they're the same thing. In effect, the balance that you see on a branch ATM, or if you're at the counter talking to a member of staff, is the same one you'd see on a mobile at any given point in time. What we're really trying to offer people is the choice of the channel that they want to use when they want to use it, and so that they can, check their balance at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. So really, there is literally no differentiation in the information people can get. The difference is people choose the level of interaction that they have, and so as I say, more longer form conversations can take place face to face, and some more of the simpler things can be done via mobile online. So we have tens of millions of customers, and that's a lot to try and work out each individual's preference, but actually we understand that. And so broadly speaking, a more mature population tends to use desktop. Younger population tends to use mobile. Different regions, actually regionality, it's not so much of a factor, but different socio-economic groupings are. And so in effect you've got specific activity for segments based on their likelihood to want propositions delivered through the channels that they're going to use. That might be a mobile specific campaign, it might be a branch only campaign. I have to be honest, we rarely do single channel specific campaigns because actually we adapt them for the different channel of choice, but the products tend to be suited to the different age groups and the different socio-demographic profiles. Well, the main things that we've learned are really around the use of dynamic creative. So what we've been focusing on over the last 12 months is introducing dynamic live testing of creative on mobile devices. And what this has taught us is things like when we make video content, we shoot a lot of our video content in portrait, for example, rather than landscape. I mean, I'm talking about really basic stuff because that's the way a lot of people use their phones. We've also ensured that we try and deliver our message within the first 5 seconds of a piece of film, because that's the way people consume information on a mobile device. And I guess it's things like that really. It's about understanding which kind of creative strategies work. So its definite focus has been on understanding how people consume information. You know, we can't take a TV ad, 30-second TV ad, and just stick it on mobile. It just doesn't work. So we have to adapt the creative strategy to be used on different types of platforms. So when we see a creative, for example, from our agency partners, the way the agency guys will present it is around the concept of what we're trying to get across, not a very linear one version only adaptation of that creative. It'll be this one will work on TV and this version of it can work on mobile. We've changed the order of the messaging, we've changed the amount of information we're going to get in it, we've kept it a lot shorter. And I think the idea of how heavily you need to brand something is less relevant when you're on mobile, because obviously people are choosing to be in a certain space and seeing your information, so you can make the information much more particular about the proposition you've got and not worry so much about having to get lots of branding cues in. But we're learning all the time. I mean, everything's test and learn. You know, it's control versus challenger, see what works, change it, move on. We're doing that with hundreds and hundreds, thousands of different bits of copy every day. I think mobile-only banks, I think they'll help the industry move on. I think competition in banking generally is fantastic for the customer. But I also think actually when we're looking at mobile-only experiences, I'm also really looking at some of the technology, giants who are based in this area. First, I'm looking at the lessons we want to learn from Google and Amazon, Apple, things like that, not just the mobile-only banks, because some of the best lessons we've learned have been from the kind of guys who've been working in mobile-only and mobile first for a while. If you talk to Facebook, for example, or Twitter, they won't say we're mobile first, they'll say we're voice first. So they've already gone past mobile and they're into voice first now.